This is it, the final push. It is stage 6 of the Tour of Denmark, the final stage. And we're in Frederiksberg, the little town that's surrounded by the capital city of Copenhagen. In the Tour of Denmark, the final day of racing. Will the new champion be crowned? Chris Juul Jensen has the 45-second advantage. It's a commanding lead at the head of general classification. Wonderful performance in yesterday's time trial. And now they're coming down to the traditional finish in Frederiksberg as the breakaway group hits the line with 7 laps remaining. And this is the 4 riders that have forged out front. It's been a busy day already, and they've arrived down to the finishing circuit from Hillerød. Total of 150 kilometers of bike racing today. 60 kilometers of which are on this finishing circuit. Not quite flat. There's a little bit of a testing drag that could well draw the sting out of some of the sprinters. But let's get a sight at the front of the peloton as Tinkoff Saxo watch as Bardiani CSF do their job for their sprinter. They've got a couple of fast men. Ruffoni is the man that we expect they're likely to be going to at the back end of this stage. Will it be the anticipated bunch finish, or will we have some attacks laid on? Will there be any challenge to the overall race lead of Chris Juul Jensen? As I said, he's got a 45-second advantage over Lars Bak. 4 riders out front at the moment, as you just got a quick sight. Their lead maximum advantage of 2 minutes. Originally we had 2 riders out front, Pim Ligtart and Bjorn Thurau, and they were 2.5 minutes to the good. Ligtart mopping up the mountains points, and would you believe it, he has pinched the mountains jersey on the final day, waiting full confirmation of that. But the man on the front of the group here, just turning down the offer of a bottle as he races through the feed zone on the right hand side of picture in the red jersey of Lotto Soudal. Pim Ligtart of the Netherlands, 27 years of age, race clear with the man out front at the moment now. Bora Argon 18's Bjorn Thurau, breakaway specialist over the last few years. Thurau punctured just at the moment when 2 riders were racing across from the bunch. Charles Planet in the white of Novo Nordisk and Brian Van Goghem of Team Rompot in the orange colours, joining up with the 2 up front, towing Thurau back to Ligtart. 4 up front. 2 minutes at one stage they had. That's down to just about 3/4 of a minute. So that gap is shrinking fast under the combined impetus of Bardiani CSF and anyone else that wants to get involved, because we're heading towards what could well be a bunch finish. A man who knows this finish well. He's raced this on many occasions, and he's winched himself up over this short drag to make sure that it was going to be a bunch finish at the back end. Is the man alongside me, Magnus Backstedt. It's been a great week of racing. It's looking like it's going to be a great celebration for Tinkoff Saxo, and most particularly Chris Juul Jensen, who could well score the biggest win of his career. Or have we got perhaps a sting in the tail? Is there anything for Lars Bak and Lotto Soudal to do about that?
I seriously doubt that Lars Bak is going to be able to pull back 45 seconds on this particular circuit. The only hill that we have is the one we've just seen them go up through the feed zone. That's really it in terms of difficulty on the circuit itself. Yes, it's relatively technical, certainly towards the coming in towards the finish line. But apart from that, it doesn't really offer an awful lot of opportunities to head out there and bring time back. So I think we're looking at it being likely to be Juul Jensen coming back in and taking the overall win. Although we've got a couple of interesting little battles happening sort of a bit further back.
A few problems for Christian Sparagli now. The MTN Quebec team, you would ordinarily be saying they'd be very, very concerned with the absence of Sparagli. He's got a 2nd place already this week, but that was second to his teammate Edvald Boasson-Hagen. It's a great sprinter, the young Italian. Little pocket rocket. He's got the wheel, and he'll get back in there safely enough. Very
easily. You know, there's enough cars behind the peloton for him to start using as well. And you know, although the pace is relatively high, it's not crazy fast just yet. It's too far out from the finish to go completely bonkers. And with that, Sparagli will make his way back in there again. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the back end of this particular stage. It's a very interesting finish. One of those that where it's too short to sort of come out of the final corner, settle down, and sort of open up the sprint slightly later on. It's also too long from the final corner up to the line, so it's really difficult to time.
Well, a bit of activity in the bunch, as well you might expect. Lots and lots of the local continental squads have gone into this, are involved in this race, and it looks like Martin Toft Madsen of Team Almaborg Bornholm that is charging out of the bunch. Not sure how long he's going to last if it's that big an effort just to get a gap of a few yards, and he's not the only one who's launched himself clear. 49 seconds between himself and the four riders up front, so he's got to try and race across that gap, save a little bit of energy. He's stealing a look over his shoulder. Meanwhile, up front, that's Brian van Godem, the 24-year-old from Rompot and the Netherlands. Two Dutch riders in the breakaway group. Pim Ligtart we've already mentioned, and it's as I say, the local riders. This is the big celebration, the big parade. We're in the center of Copenhagen, or Frederiksberg to be more correct, because it is a town in its own right, considered separate to Copenhagen. It's entirely surrounded by the capital city. There's no obvious border. And the Danish national squad have been very busy all week. Kasper Asgreen did a good time early on in the time trial yesterday. Clearly he's recovered well from that.
Yeah, it's one of these where, you know, the final stage you're always trying to have a bit of a go, and of course it's quite special for certainly for the Danish riders and the younger Danish riders to race on the streets of Copenhagen. It's not every day you get to race your bike in the city centre of your capital. And
they know the TV pictures have arrived, and yeah, it's a bit of an elaborate version of the Hello Mum for Kasper Asgreen and Martin Toft Madsen. Those riders back in the bunch. Meanwhile, up front, Ligtart surveys his fellow breakaway companions, tries to see what they're made of. Bjorn Terau, German rider, ex-Europcar, moves across to Bora Argon 18. 36 kilometers left, 42 seconds for the four riders up front. We're going to get the first break out of the way. It's the final stage of the Tour of Denmark for 2015. It's the Tour of Copenhagen on the final stage. Frederiksberg, a town surrounded by the capital city, and this is the main bunch chasing down the four riders up front. As if by magic, we see them on this this little drag, which serves as a feed zone for the riders. Bjorn Terau rolls to the front as they retain their 3/4 of a minute advantage over the charging bunch behind. Riders are starting to get frisky. Bardiani CSF trying to control things for the anticipated sprint finish. And their sprint specialist, Nicola Ruffoni. Two Nicolas in that team that can manage a finish. Nicola Boehm as well. I think they'll go to Ruffoni. Sprinted well on the opening day in the bunch in wet weather conditions. What a contrast. We've had all sorts of weather. We've had some fantastic racing this week. Culminated with that time trial success yesterday for Mads Bert Schmidt of Team Colloquick. Bit of a surprise performance, but very impressive nonetheless. And Schmidt managing that 15-second success ahead of Chris Juul Jensen, but Juul Jensen had the considerable consolation prize of taking over the overall race lead. And he's now racing to glory in Frederiksberg today.
It's still quite a nervous ride that Juul Jensen has got today. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's yellow jersey on your shoulders. Anything can go wrong, and it's nerve-wracking.
The four riders up front are controlling the gap on this final stage of Tour of Denmark. The crowds are out in force. The weather gods have smiled on this, the 25th anniversary of the Tour of Denmark. And Brian van Godem, who raced across to the duo that were up front. The next two riders in line behind him, Pim Ligtart in the red of Lotto Soudal, the black colours of Bora Argo 18, worn by breakaway specialist Bjorn Terau. And van Godem on the front was joined by Charles Planet, the Frenchman, racing with the Changing Diabetes Team Nova Nordisk squad. Changing Diabetes sponsoring the Mountains jersey, and Pim Ligtart has managed to pinch that one on the final day. Patrick Clausen from Trevor Blue Water, led with a 10-point advantage over Vestergaard and Van Goghem. But Van Goghem missing out when Lichtart went into the early break. Lichtart 6th in the mountain standings going into today's stage, but mopped up the points on all 3 hills. That's been dispensed with. Lichtart just needs to make it to the finish line, and now his attention focuses to trying to hold off the Bardiani squad for as long as is humanly possible. Surely there's no way the break are going to the line. 37 seconds, it's nicely controlled at the moment, and we're down to what, 32.4 kilometers remaining. So we're inside, well inside 6 laps to go for the 4 leaders up front. And safely nestling in the bunch at the moment is Chris Juul-Jensen, the overall race leader by 45 seconds from Lars Bak. Well, what a revolution the time trial proved to be for the overall standings. Marco Marcata from Wanty Group Gobert started yesterday's time trial just 3 seconds in arrears to Lars Bak, but found that it was a tough day out, but still retained his retained third. He moved down 1 place from 2nd to 3rd. Lars Bak moved down 1 place from 1st to 2nd. Chris Juul-Jensen up 2. Those were the significant movers. Rasmus Goldhammer as well. What about that great effort from the Team Cult Energy rider? Moved from 5th to 4th, now just over a minute behind Chris Juul-Jensen, and that's a pretty good overall finish in general classification, always assuming that there isn't any movement in the final 31.5 kilometers. Patrick Conrad, Bora Argon 18, teammate of the man up front, Bjorn Terau, the Austrian rider, now up into 5th, and Max Wirtz-Schmidt with that stunning time trial success, the man from Team Coloquick, just 21 years of age and managing to move up to 6th overall on general classification, 1 minute 26 seconds behind Juul-Jensen. That's the top 6 situation as we see a little bit of a condensing, a bunching up in the main peloton behind as they try to get themselves organised. Lots and lots of laps, so the rider's very familiar. Nothing terribly difficult, but it is a relatively technical finish. You've got turns inside the final kilometre at a 90 right with, about 400 metres from the line. They should be able to get themselves organised, having seen it so often, but sometimes familiarity can
it just means that everyone knows where to move and everyone's trying to move at the same time, which makes it, as far as I'm concerned, worse. The final kilometre here is quite difficult. That's where you're just coming in to actually have a go at the final kilometre. So it's a mini roundabout, ahead of a speed bump, ahead of a right-hand turn. You got about 400 metres straight, another right-hand turn, and you're onto the finishing straight, which is 400-ish metres long, slightly uphill. You're very, very likely to run extremely wide on the exit because the entry to the corner is not wide enough. With that, it's, like I said earlier, it's difficult to time this sprint because it's too long to go from the bottom and from the corner. It's not long enough to sort of kick out the corner, sit down, chill out and get going again. So effectively you are going to have to in one way or another wind it up from the final corner up to here towards the finish line and hope that you can hold on.
So the 4 riders from the breakaway are going to take the final bonus sprint of the Tour of Denmark for 2015. It's Bjorn Terau that leads the field, leads the riders down towards the finish line, ahead of Charles Planet, Brian Van Goghem and Pim Lichtart in turn. Will it be contested? No, it would appear not. And with 5 laps remaining, 30 kilometers in total, plus or minus a few hundred meters, it's Bjorn Terau ahead of Charles Planet and Brian Van Goghem. That's your 3, 2 and 1 seconds removed from their overall finishing time in this event. Not that it really matters to them. Behind, controlling things nicely, Bardiani CSF. The Italian squad racing at pro-continental level.
Yeah, they obviously got a bit of help there from Tinkoff Saxo and MT Quebec as well. Tinkoff Saxo here today, I would believe, working for Michael Markov.
Wow. Will they set up more cup? Of course, Matty Brechel's on a hat-trick for the week, isn't he? He's got 2 stage wins, sprinting well, but maybe it's just not the sort of finish that really suits his skills.
I think it's more towards Markov's type of finish today, but then again, it's very tight in the classification, points classification between Breschel and Bosenhagen.
42 seconds, the advantage for the 4 riders up front. 5 laps left. The gap is coming down, but it's not coming down too quickly. It's a great job being done by these 4 riders up front. Pim Ligtart of Lotto Soudal has been out there all day. Relatively short stage for the riders, but at 150 kilometers, it's been a tough week of racing for them. So the legs will be starting to feel a little bit tender at this point. But Ligtart striking out early in the break to his great advantage, because Lotto Soudal are going to take another classification.
Yeah, this circuit, although it's not particularly hard, it's been made hard by the fact that you're having to keep such a high pace all the time, and obviously now that the chase is on in the peloton, it means that the guys really, you have to turn over such a big gear all the time and really stay on it.
Now Bardiani CSF gets some assistance from Yuri Sagan of Tinkoff Saxo to control the pace. They're managing it nicely, aren't they? 36 seconds between the 4 riders up front, including Bjorn Terau, son of the famous German TI Rally rider, among other teams. Dietrich Terau, leader of the Tour de France back in the 1970s. And Bjorn Terau, his son, has made a name for himself as a bit of a breakaway specialist over the last few years. Several days in the climber's jersey in the Tour of Switzerland last year, if memory serves. 7, of course, according to these statistics I have to hand. And he was a Europcar rider back then. Now he's moved over to the German squad. Bora Argon 18. He's rolling through. Van Goghem on the front. And at the back of the bunch, charging along behind, a couple of riders from Team Cult Energy, who've done a super job this week.
One rider that's right on the back here is Linus Gerdemann, who I'm slightly disappointed with. I was expecting a lot more from Linus during this week. He's a rider who's capable of climbing pretty well. He should be time trialing reasonably well as well. So this type of race really should play right up his street. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him an awful lot, so don't know quite what's going on there. But you know, these things happen to riders if you're coming in having had a bad week at home with training, or you've been sick or something like that, and all of a sudden they're not firing on all cylinders.
One squad that is firing on all cylinders at the moment is the Bardiani CSF squad, lined out in front of Tinkoff Saxo. Lime green ahead of Dayglow yellow. MTN Quebec just hiding in there at the moment. They haven't put a rider on the front lately, but they're starting to assemble. We just pick out the yellow jersey of the overall race leader, Chris Juul Jensen, in contrast to the Dayglow yellow colours of his Tinkoff Saxo teammates. It's more of a plain yellow colour, and he is nestled in there nicely behind his teammates, sitting about, what, 15th, maybe a little bit further up. Proud moment for him. He's on the streets of the capital city of Denmark. He's a Dane racing to glory in the Tour of Denmark. Well, they're going to chase down these 4 riders first. Well, none of them is a threat on general classification. But you can be sure that Tinkoff Saxo want a little bit more. They're hungry, they're greedy, because they've got the points classification at the moment very, very nicely poised. Matty Breschel just 4 points ahead of Edvald Bosenhagen. And Bosenhagen has already taken a stage victory this week. Matty Breschel's taken 2. So who will it be to finish ahead of the other? And who's going to take that points classification? Tinkoff Saxo would like to scoop at least 2 overall jerseys in this race. They'd also like to make it another stage success. 3 stage wins for the week would be a nice haul, wouldn't it? Chris Juul Jensen pipped for stage success yesterday, 15 seconds behind Mads Wirtz Schmidt, but taking the overall race lead with a 45-second advantage over Lars Bak. Now we pick him out for the first time. In front of him is the blue jersey of Matti Breschel. So Tinkoff Saxo with massive links to Denmark, of course. Russian owned at this point. But, Saxo Bank, with its links to Denmark, still very much a big Danish identity in this squad. 4 laps remaining for the bunch. 4 laps for the breakaway group of 4 riders up front. And they're starting to line out at the back of the bunch now, indicating the sort of pace that's been put on the front by Bardiani CSF. Dan Craven in his Namibian National Road Race Champions jersey. He's a Team Europe car rider. Be familiar to British viewers from his performances on the British scene in the last few years, well, a few years ago at this point. And well known to riders around the Bristol area, of course. He's made his home for many years. Dan Craven at the back of the bunch, who's going to be at the front of the bunch for Team Europe car. They've got a couple of fast finishers. Perhaps Yannick Martinez will be minded to go up for the sprint later on. Jimmy Engelvant, who's been in the attacks this week. Team Europe car rider can be relied upon to come up with something aggressive, and he could be a sort of a 10, 7, 5 kilometers to go attacker. Through the feed zone, the back of the peloton, winching their way up this drag. It's a strength zapper. It's not the sort of one that is going to eliminate all the sprinters, but it could just draw the sting out of several of them. And they'll be feeling the pinch a little bit after a week of tough racing. Martin Tough Madsen, we saw him off the front not so long ago. He's back in the bunch, back in the safety of the bunch. It all looks a little bit easier for him. But that's an indication of just how hard it is at the moment, Magnus.
Well, certainly the pace is being driven on. 21 kilometers to go, and like we've said, it's not a particularly difficult circuit. We've just got that one climb up through where the feed zone is, just after the finish line, effectively, and from then on it's just pan flat. But Bardiani here driving the pace up and making sure that they're keeping hold of the control of the peloton together with Tinkoff Saxo, who I think have got a bit of dilemma on their hands today in terms of who do they choose to do the stage for. You know, Matti Breschel obviously up there on the points classification, very, very tight with Bosenhagen. But at the same time, I think Molkov is probably a bit faster on this type of finish. So
it's a tough call, isn't it? Well, we've seen a 1-2 for MTN Quebec. Could Tinkoff Saxo try and set something up to try and get both their men into position for the sprint? It's a difficult proposition at the best of times. With 9 riders in a team, it's tough. Can you imagine with just 8?
Well, it doesn't really happen. If you try and set up 2 riders to do the sprint, most of the time it goes completely wrong. If you do it, you set it up for 1 rider, and then all of a sudden the guys in front of you are doing such a good job that you end up coming in as a last lead-up man, coming into position where you can actually hold it all the way to the line. That's when you end up with the double successes and stuff like that. But actually thinking about, no, we're going to do this sprint with 2 riders and get in here to the bottom of the corner, 2 riders ready to open up.
It's greedy.
It's not going to work.
Yeah.
It is a bit on the greedy side, and yeah, you probably have them both running 5th and 6th.
And you get your just desserts, which is not a lot. Bardiani CSF, are they setting it up for Nicola Ruffoni? Sprinted well in the bunch sprint behind the lead group on the first day. What a great week of racing we've had. The first stage taken in a fine opportunistic solo stage-winning style by Lars Bohm of the Astana squad. Racing in clear of the remains of the breakaway, led in by Lars hitting back just a few seconds back. And Bohm had the overall lead for a couple of days. Edvald Bosenhagen taking that 1-2 finish ahead of his MTN Quebec teammate Christian Sparagli on day 2. Bohm hanging on to his yellow jersey for another day. And then on stage 3, Annie Braschel got going with that victory ahead of Rasmus Guldhammer into Viola. The tough finish up that wall on that finishing circuit, 185 kilometers of tough racing, and that changed things around a little bit because Tinkoff Saxo found themselves wanting a little bit, and Astana, I should say, and a little bit wanting, as we get a sight for the first time in this stage of Chris Juul Jensen. He'd have a few butterflies in there, everything's very much under control, but he'll be a little bit anxious. He'll be feeling punctures that don't exist at the moment, won't he?
Yeah, it is incredibly nerve-wracking sitting there with the yellow jersey on, and actually sometimes for the riders who are working for him, and these sort of things can happen.
Big one at the back of the field. This is always likely to happen, isn't it? A little bit of a stall, and then suddenly riders find themselves on the ground, and Jesper Nielsen just won. Several riders from Top Sport Vlaanderen, several riders from Team Rival, and several riders from Team Coloquick, just indicating how one of the MTN Quebecer riders on the floor. Well, we get a full that's that little bit of traffic furniture really catching them out. And that was a big pile-up, wasn't it? So many teams and riders delayed there.
I think that may have been Ciolek, actually.
Well, that would be a big loss for MTN Quebecer. Let's see if we can pick up a number. Is it the German rider? So prominent into Viola a couple of days ago. And indeed it is. Gerald Ciolek, nice spot. And he's feeling a little bit sore, isn't he? And a little bit discontented.
Bit of road rash on that one.
Gerald Ciolek, an important member of the MTN Quebecer lead-out train. He would be asked to do a job to try and set up Edvald Bosenhagen and Christian Sparagli at the back end. They've lost an important member of their troop.
Yeah, he's definitely very vital for the setup of the sprint for MTN, I believe. You know, he's a seasoned campaigner and has always been a fast sprinter. Although he says he's so much more than a sprinter, I still believe that he is a sprinter. He's just one of the new generation sprinters that can actually climb very well indeed. And you know, they're opening up a broader spectrum of stages for themselves to race on. But Ciolek, I think even if you let him have a go here now with a setup and backup from a team, he would place in the top 2-3 on a sprint like this, everything going right, obviously.
Well, it's going to be tough for him now as we hit 3 laps to go. And it's 13 seconds the lead for the group up front, so it's coming down quick, and riders still trying to get back on, coming towards the back end of 4 riders up front, but for how much longer? Just 19 seconds the advantage for the breakaway group on the final stage of the Tour of Denmark. It's stage 6, and we're in Frederiksberg in the center of Copenhagen as the riders accept the applause, racing through the last couple of laps. 3 laps remaining last time round for Bjorn Terau of Bor Argon 18, Brian van Godem of Team Rompot, Charles Planet of the Team Novo Nordisk in white there, and at the back Pim Ligtart, the main beneficiary of the early breakaway, having vaulted, we understand, although yet to be officially confirmed, into the lead of the mountains competition on the final day. Changing Diabetes Hills competition is going the way of the Lotto Soudal man, but are they going to get the overall lead? Seems unlikely, and this is some of the evidence of that crash that happened a little while ago. I do believe we did see a couple of Eurocar riders down, several riders from Top Sport Vlaanderen. Gerald Ciolek is in shot, who crashed out for MTN Quebec. He's just going to wind himself through the final couple of laps. He will be picked up. I wonder will he just pack and be listed as an on-finisher? Seems likely now, doesn't it? So less than 15 kilometers remaining in this final stage of the Tour of Denmark as Charles Planet of Team Novo Nordisk makes his way to the back of the group, led by Pim Ligtart of Lotto Soudal. Heading towards the mountains jersey, we understand. It's been a good week for Lotto Soudal, but they're not going to get the overall success unless something dramatic happens. Little shake of the head from Ligtart. What's being said to him? As Lars back sitting 45 seconds back. You'll pardon the entirely unintentional pun. In fact, it's pretty much unavoidable pun at this point, isn't it? Yeah, Lars back from Lotto Soudal, 45 seconds behind Chris Juul Jensen. Chris Juul Jensen, you can see in that yellow jersey, his Tinkoff Saxo teammates just in front of him, a slightly different shade of yellow, and then the lime green of Bardiani Valvoli. And now we've got MTN Quebec not paying any regard to the fact that Gerald Ciolek has been dispensed with. How are they going to set it up? They have an embarrassment of sprinting riches.
Well, they certainly do. Although I feel that because of how Bosenhagen has been going and the potential winning of the points classification, they should probably try and work for him today. But I think Sparagli may be slightly quicker. In the should we call it absence of an informed Theo Boss in terms of his sprinting legs, at least. Obviously Theo's doing a great job for the team here, but by riding on the front of the group and controlling this breakaway, you know, it's a tough call for them, I think, sometimes, in terms of who we're actually going to line up today, and it takes quite a lot of responsibility from the riders to actually have a good discussion during the race. Who's feeling good, who's not feeling great, well, you know, incorporate all these potential points classifications and whatever else there is, GC as well, into the whole scenario, and then go from there.
There's a lot to take on board, as you say, and a lot of calculations that need to be made out on the road. And as you say, I mean, how do they discuss it? I mean, you know, you get the sensations in your legs that say you're on a good day. Sometimes it doesn't work out like that when it comes to the sprint.
Well, no, sometimes it doesn't work out that way, but that's what you have to go on. You know, go on the feeling, you know, how are they responding? Is there an intermediate sprint out here? Just test your legs a bit and see how they respond. You got that, you know exactly when you're on a good one and when you're not. And at certain points you have to take the responsibility of the race and of the team, even though you're not feeling 100%, because you might be the man who is going the best at the time.
Well, MTN have a stage success already this week, courtesy of Edvald Bosenhagen, who raced in clear of his fellow sprint sensation teammate Christian Sparagli. Sparagli has been ferried safely back towards the front of the bunch after his puncture a little while ago. Four riders out front, Van Goghem grimacing. He's pulling all sorts of faces. Is that for the crowd, or is that because he realizes that they're not going to be out front for much longer? Look at the charging bunch behind Bardiani CSF. They smell blood. Those are the four riders being stalked, and it's not going to last for much longer, is it? As we've got two more 6-kilometer laps. Ticker indicating that it's a little bit less than 6 kilometers. That's what the road book indicates. Well, it doesn't really matter, does it? Because there's definitely just 2 laps remaining. And there's the yellow jersey of Chris Juul Jensen, just sitting in front of him. His teammate, Matty Breschel, in the blue of the overall leader of the points competition after his 2 stage wins this week. It's been a great week for Tinkoff Saxo. Can they put the cherry on the cake with another stage win?
Yeah, that would be a phenomenal week for them, I think. Probably a lot more than what they were expecting to do when they came into this race. But I think the #1 priority is obviously going to be to look after Juul Jensen and his yellow jersey, make sure that he's safe. And then after that, we can start playing for stage wins and so on, points jerseys.
Just over 10 kilometers remaining in the Tour of Denmark for 2015. The 4 riders from the early breakaway now with that final bit of skirmishing to see who's going to be the last man standing. Pim Ligtart's a strong guy, isn't he? He's out front all day. They look like they've jettisoned Bjorn Thurau, who's out there with Ligtart. Van Goghem and Charles Planet raced across to Ligtart, and it's Van Goghem that has struck out for glory, the glory being last man standing, and the few points towards the most aggressive rider competition, which is still up for grabs. It's a week-long affair. Bjorn Thurau's not going to win it. He just takes a little look around to see what the scene is at the front of the bunch. That's the last time he'll see it. Will there be any Bora Argon riders towards the front? At the back end, they've got Scott Thwaites is in good form this week, could perhaps do a job for them. Cesare Benedetti has gone up for sprints with great effect over the years. Van Goghem is, I did mention, he's been pulling all sorts of faces lately. To good effect. He's managing to get the power into the pedals, and yeah, he's in full Tommy Voeckler mode at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, he certainly is, but with 10 kilometers to go, 9 seconds on the bunch, I think that's going to be somewhat difficult to try and hold on to. And I think round about now is where, you know, there are 3 teams effectively working on the front of the peloton, and they do well in starting to increase the pace and really put the pressure on already now to string the bunch out, make it so hard that no other riders sort of, you know, 1s and 2s and from different teams are challenging for position in there. It's certainly something that we've tried in the past on this one, and just really a lap, 2 laps to maybe a lap and a half, that's when you really put the pressure on it. Go really hard up over the climb where we had the feed station before, where we just saw Van Goghem attack here now, and then from there on just keep the pace up.
Well, it looks like one of the riders from the Danish national squad is just nursing what could well be a broken shoulder or maybe a wrist. I think he's just desperate to try and make it through to the finish. He just wants to finish this event, but has there been another crash? Still 2 laps to go, so I think he's going to make it, unfortunately. That's such a disappointment for local riders. It matters so much, doesn't it, to make it as we go back towards the front. Van Goghem hanging on like grim death at the moment, and it is a grim, long, dwindling, agonizing end to his period out front. But he's still got 15 seconds, and they're just ratcheting up the pace behind, as Magnus Backstedt has explained to us. Interesting that Bardiani CSF took it up. Would you have, are you surprised that they did it? Should they have left it to Team Saxa?
Well, I think it was up to Team Saxa to keep it, really, but then again, they really probably didn't care too much whether they brought it back for a sprint finish today or not. Whereas Bardiani obviously wanted to make that happen. And this looks like it's certainly not a shoulder, because
wrist, isn't it? Yeah.
It's more of a wrist or a hand that's unfortunately been broken at that point.
Yeah, looked a funny shape. Yeah. Daniel Hartvig, just give him his due. Unfortunately not going to be completing, but he gets a sympathetic round of applause from the crowd.
Yeah, definitely does. But this is all going to come down now to a big lead out, and I think Bardiani had to take on the work to bring these guys back, and at this point now, obviously Tinkoff Saxa are happy to help them, and together with MTN Quebec, they really can make this super hard in the last lap and a half now, and with that keep it strung out enough for it to be safe enough for Juul Jensen to get inside that 3 kilometer to go banner, where effectively, well, the time doesn't stop, but if you have a crash, if there is a crash inside the last 3 kilometers, time is stopped and you get the same time as the winner. So at that point, it's unlikely that Juul Jensen is going to lose 45 seconds on Lars.
Even in a split.
Even in a split, it's very unlikely to happen, and with that, you know, they can relax a bit.
So get Juul Jensen to the 3K banner. That is the big message at the moment for Tinkoff. I suppose from their point of view, with the lead of the points competition being as narrow as it is, with two stage wins already this week, and with Juul Jensen secure in the jersey, why not just let the break go up the road? And if there's nobody in there that's a threat on GC, then take no responsibility for chasing. If one of the other sprinters teams takes it up, then they've got fresh legs to try and set pressure up for scoring some points. So it's win-win for them.
It certainly is win-win for them. It's such a difficult equation, though, when you start bringing in. So you got yellow jersey, you got points jersey, you got individual stage to worry about, and so on. There's just too many bits to focus on. I think just don't forget that you still got the yellow jersey.
That's the main thing.
And that is the main thing. Anything else will come by trying to look after the yellow jersey. The rest will come with it.
Absolutely nothing being focused on by Brian Van Goghem except the road in front of him and the power he's managing to generate into those cranks, as the 24-year-old from the Netherlands survives to take the bell. He has the honour of leading the field through with 1 lap remaining. Just 6 kilometres of bike racing left in the Tour of Denmark for 2015, and he's did a hell of a job pulling those faces and managing to get the power into the pedal. Steals a look over his shoulder and gets the news that he doesn't want. But he, tell you what, the news he doesn't want is that he has to persevere with this for a little while longer. He's going to make it, I think, probably to the 5k to go point. But now we have Tinkoff Saxo on the front. MTN Quebec are starting to gravitate towards there. And Team Colquick are there at the front too. Just over 5k to go. Just over 5 kilometres remaining in the Tour of Denmark. The bunch are strung out. Those riders at the back aren't going to play a part in the destination of stage honours today. Neither too is Brian van Goghem as he looks over his shoulder. His period out front coming to a conclusion, but it's been a brave effort from the Dutchman. First year of a 2-year deal with Team Rompot, and it's an effective performance by the breakaway man as he will hand it over now to the sprint specialist. Tinkoff Saxo on the front. Bardiani CSF take it up in lime green. MTN Quebec have put a rider in there to make this one as tough and as hard as possible. And behind that arrowhead, we see the teams starting to gravitate towards the front, trying to get themselves organised.
Well, it's all down to the top teams here now to make sure that this is strung out. A couple of the riders, I can just about see Boasson Hagen on the right-hand side, just behind Benedetti. They're starting to move up. Benedetti for Bora Argon 18. I think, to me, it's not quite fast enough.
Well, it's too fast for these guys. They've done their work for the week, and they've just tailed off the back in the last 5k, and they can tour in and make it a little bit of a celebration of what's been a tough week of racing. Looking like going the way of Chris Juul Jensen, who's safely in there at the moment in the yellow jersey, just moving up to a 4th rider, 3rd of the Tinkoff Saxo. He's still got 1,200 metres to go. Well,
that's the perfect position for Juul Jensen to be in right now, ahead of all the sort of shoulder rubbing and elbow rubbing that's going to be going on. And ideally, when he's getting up here now towards the 3 kilometre to go mark, put Juul Jensen to take a big turn here, and then he's effectively safe home. A lot of guys starting to move up now.
It's all starting to get busy, and they're crowding around the front as Baragli tries to get himself into position. We saw Boasson Hagen, the MTN rider, his teammate on the other side of the bunch not so long ago. Bora Argon were assembled on the left-hand side of the bunch. Now they've moved over to the right.
And that is difficult with this particular circuit as well. It's really hard to move up because there isn't really any long stretches of straight road where you can put down the pressure and move into position. So it's going to be a tricky old one.
Well, the ticker says 300 metres to the point where a crash won't cost...
Comes Team Sky on the right-hand side as well. Ben Swift with the young Michael Kerbel on the wheel there for Cult Energy as well.
So Cult Energy in the dark colours on the right-hand side with little red flashes. The blue flashes for the dark colours, that's Team Sky. Ben Swift has a top 10 already this week. He'd like a hell of a lot more than that, you can be sure, as he tries to assemble. He's got Christian Knaes, former German road race champion, who's giving him a bit of a hand. Looks like Boasson Hagen is just moving around to create a bit of a space for himself on the right-hand side of the bunch, the left-hand side of picture. But it's Tinkoff Saxo that own this one with 2,700 metres to go. Or is that the 3k banner? I think it probably is. And that is the moment that tells us that Chris Juul Jensen, sitting 3rd wheel, can breathe a sigh of relief. Not entirely, but more or less at this point. A crash, as long as he's able to get up and complete, won't cost him any time.
No, but still, you want to make sure that you get across that finish line with rubber side down. And here comes MTN Quebec now they've finally got Boasson Hagen and Baragli together.
Well, Lado Sidal on the left-hand side of picture trying to get organised as well. They've got Kenny De Haas, who's a fast finisher, and he can do a job for them. And they've got ownership of the right-hand side of the road, but still Tinkoff Saxo. So the team's happy enough to leave it up to Tinkoff Saxo to lead this one out. Chris Juul Jensen, the overall race leader, his focus is changing slightly because he's going to help do a lead-out man. There's a proud man, Jesper Vore, who has been the race director of the Tour of Denmark on its 25th anniversary edition, has seen a great race going the way of his fellow countrymen as the overall race leader takes it up on the front. It is Chris Juul-Jensen for Tinkoff Saxo, but who's going to be sprinting it out? It looks like it's set up now for the man in blue, his teammate, leader of the points competition, Matti Breschel, going for a hat-trick.
And here comes Bardiani as well, just getting up to the wheel of Breschel. I think Tinkoff Saxo doing a good job so far. A couple of corners to negotiate now, though.
Now, so we're well into the concluding period of this final stage of the Tour of Denmark as MTN Quebec dive bomb through to the front. But where is Edvald Boasson-Hagen? Where is Christian Sparagli? They're sprinters a little bit further back. They're going to leave it up to Tinkoff Saxo. Bardiani CSF getting into the mix as well. And Matti Breschel just finds himself gravitating towards the front. It's about timing, this one, isn't it? And Tinkoff Saxo have the front of the peloton inside the last couple of kilometres.
Best position there is MTN Quebec right at this point, although there's some way to go.
And it's still a long one, all right, as they go either side of this roundabout, and that's not the most perfectly placed roundabout in history. They didn't know that when they planted a tree on it, did they? Because the Tour of Denmark is coming down to a conclusion in Frederiksberg in 2015. Tinkoff Saxo on the front, trying to set it up for the man sitting in a third, fourth wheel in the blue of the leader of the points competition. That's Matti Breschel. Top Sport Vlaanderen on the right-hand side in the white and blue colours as they move to the front. And they've got several, they've got Amaury Capio, who's been sprinting well this week. Who's it going to be? They also have Wallace, who's capable of doing a great
this is
finish.
Perfectly set up now for Matti Breschel. Tinkoff Saxo done an amazing job in the final 3 kilometres.
So we're running to the line, and here comes Matti Breschel sitting second wheel at the moment. It's looking good for Tinkoff Saxo. Bardiani are coming with a run, and so too are MTN Quebec. And it's all too easy for Matti Breschel. Is he going to get his stage success? No, he wants to hand this one over. And is that Morkov that gets the victory? Morkov is gifted the victory, and we said it'd be too easy to get a 1-2 finish, too difficult to get a 1-2 finish, but Tinkoff Saxo manage it. Matti Breschel celebrating a wonderful success in the points competition, and it's another stage success for Tinkoff Saxo. Take the overall race win courtesy of Chris Juul-Jensen. Well, what a day as Michael Morkov takes the final stage for Tinkoff Saxo of Tour of Denmark 2015, ahead of his teammate Matti Breschel, who wins the points competition, and Chris Juul-Jensen takes the overall. It's a crushing display by Tinkoff Saxo.
Amazing ride by Tinkoff Saxo there in the final few kilometres to hold on to that, but also how sharp is Matti Breschel to work out that his teammate had the opportunity to win that one and gift him the win.
Chris Juul-Jensen gets... Wow, what a fabulous conclusion to the Tour of Denmark for 2015 that we've had, as Chris Juul-Jensen celebrates his first GC success in his home race, his biggest professional win by some considerable margin. For the man who grew up in Dublin, or in Wicklow actually, a member of a Dublin club, Sorrento Cycling Club, and they'll be proud of his performance. But what about this for a crushing win by Tinkoff Saxo, their third stage success of the week. And nicely set up there by their lead-out men.
Well, just the fact that they had one man on the back of both Morkov and Breschel, who effectively just stopped pedaling, just coasted through the final corner, knew that there wasn't a second apex through that corner, and the guys just had 25-30 metres by the time they got out of the turn, so brilliant.
Michael Morkov takes the final stage for Tinkoff Saxo in the Tour of Denmark for 2015. Gets his arms in the air along with the man second across the line. Matti Breschel, winner of the points competition. Third stage success for Tinkoff Saxo during the week, and they take the overall as well. So it's well, it's been pretty good. I don't think they could really have asked for a whole lot more than that. They left the scraps for the other teams and an absolutely textbook lead out. I tell you what, if Michael Valgren had gone all the way to the line, he might even have hung on for third. It was that easy in the back end. They controlled it perfectly through the final right-hander and took that success. As we get the sights over Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. What a wonderful week of racing it's been. The Frederiksberg Castle displayed proudly The Carlsberg Brewery's around here somewhere as well. It's in my notes. And if Carlsberg did sprint finishes, they'd do one a bit like Tinkoff Saxos, I tell you. Well, we're hoping to hear from Michael Morkov. Another Danish rider getting success this week. And hopefully we've managed to catch up with him. Unsurprisingly, there's plenty of supporters in the crowd at the finish line. Been around a while, but this will mean an awful lot to the 30-year-old. Stage success in the Vuelta over the years. I'm not sure we are going to be able to hear from it. Lip reading is not my strong point, especially in Danish.
As he's saying,
just eased off the gas on the gas pedal for just a second so I could take the win, and that's a really big thing from him.
Vi har været med fremme og vundet 3 etaper nu og vinder sammenlagt, så
obviously won 3 stages, and the overall we couldn't really have done much more.
Nej, det var bestemt et drømmescenarie.
Yeah, they couldn't have done a lot more than that, could they? Michael Morkov, former stage winner in the Vuelta a España, among many other. He's been 3rd overall in this race, the Tour of Denmark. Stage success. Well, that'll be an important addition to his palmares. He'll celebrate this. And he'll celebrate it with his teammates. Matti Breschel, the winner of the points competition, 2nd on the day. And Chris Juul Jensen safely across the line to preserve that 45-second advantage over Lars Ittingback of the Lotto Soudal squad. And Lars Bak, well, would you believe it, 3rd year in a row that he finishes 2nd on GC in the Tour of Denmark. A race he's yet to win, and he's running out of years to do it. That's not to take anything away from Chris Juul Jensen's wonderful success. The first of many for the man who's heading off to Orica Green Edge. He's on a 2-year deal. He's been with Saxo now for 4 years. Let's get a side of the finish as Michael Valgren Andersen set things up into the final corner.
Yeah, Valgren is doing a great job. He's taking a monster of a turn here, but I think the whole setup of the team going through that final turn is what makes the whole sprint here. They obviously got one man on the wheel of Matti Breschel, knowing that there is only one line through the final apex, and that's the key thing that that rider just basically eases off and creates the gap to Breschel and Morkov, and Breschel just has a look around and gives Morkov a shout halfway up the finishing straight. No, step back onto the gas, we're clear. And that's, you know, but what a turn that Valgren is doing. It
was a long one, yeah. He managed to stay there for a long time.
Yeah, really, really strong turn.
Strong turn from Valgren Andersen. Hands it over to Morkov and to Breschel. Between them, they had time to gaze over at each other and celebrate a comfy win. Edvald Boasson-Hagen, well, he looked frustrated after that. He's had a stage win this week, but look at Chris Juul Jensen in the yellow jersey celebrating overall success. And Morkov, he's probably felt a bit like a bit-part player in his team this week, with Breschel taking those 2 stage wins and Juul Jensen up there every day in every move. But cometh the hour, cometh the man, and he's taken the blue ribbon stage. Well, is it the blue ribbon stage? It's the marquee stage, I suppose. It's the Champs-Élysées style stage of the Tour of Denmark. The traditional curtain closer to this post-Danmark Rundt. And we're waiting for final confirmation of stage and general classification honours. No doubt about the first 3 riders over the line for the stage, and no doubt too that Chris Juul Jensen. So it's Morkov that gets stage success on the final day in Denmark, ahead of teammate and fellow countryman Matti Breschel. Edvald Boasson-Hagen up for 3rd for MTN Quebec. Raymond Crater missing out for Team Rompop. A good result for him. Bardiani, well, the best they could do was 5th for Nicola Raffoni. Asborn Craig Anderson was there for the local squads. Amaury Capio, Frederick Frisson, Magnus Nielsen and Marco Marcato, who finishes 3rd overall, we do believe. Well, he rounded out the top 10 on the final stage. And final confirmation of general classification coming very shortly. There it is, proud day for the Juul Jensens, isn't it? Because that is Chris Juul Jensen's first victory in the Tour of Denmark, 45 seconds ahead of Lars Bak. Marco Marcato on the podium, just under a minute back. Guldhammer, Conrad, Bosenhagen, Wertschmidt, Breschel, Kamp and Nielsen. So no change in the overall standings on the final day, as Juul Jensen preserves that lead and puts that in his pocket to go with the individual time trial success in the national championships earlier this year, which represent his big successes in his career. Clearly a developing rider, really made a name for himself in the Giro d'Italia this year. Did sterling work on the front, setting the tempo throughout the early parts of the stage. Parts of each stage for Alberto Contador, and that's the sort of legwork that Orica Greenedge are asking for.
Well, it certainly is, and you know, he's a rider who's capable of climbing well on the shorter, steeper climbs, but as well he's got he's a relatively fast man as well in the finish, and I think looking at the future, he's going to be a rider who could potentially be very good at the early spring classics, Het Volk, Tour of Flanders, maybe even, and certainly some of those type of style of races. So I'm really quite excited to see what he can do in the future, and also get into a team that's slightly more open in terms of riders taking opportunities and being given opportunities. So for Juul Jensen, this is next year is going to be a big one off here.
Well, he's still just 26 years of age, and Chris Juul Jensen, the Dane, fourth year on with Tinkoff Saxo, off to Orica Greenedge, to pastures new, to new opportunities. But he's taken his opportunity absolutely perfectly so far this week, as indeed has on the final